Thank you for tuning in. We have a very good meeting today. This meeting really is focused on getting you ready for the biggest sales season that we have here in our software world. That is, of course, Black Friday. It is a vast multiplier of sales. So, when we look at a run rate of transactions in a typical month, you can call it X. When you look at the transactions just in a 3-week period, typically the middle of November to the first week of December, you're looking at a run rate of 2 or 3 times that. For a lot of resellers, this selling season, that period between the halfway through the month of November and the first week of January, that could represent 30, 40, or even 50% of their profits for the year. It can also represent 50% of the transactions for the year. Now, in order to really get part of that, you've got to follow a few rules. We've been talking about them for years. Some of the bigger players, already know these rules. They're experts at it. They capture tens of thousands of transactions during that period, millions and millions of dollars of sales and profits. So we're really going to try to have an honest discussion today about what you could do. Everybody can participate to really catch some of that business for yourself, okay? Today we have Fiedler Audio here. We're going to show off some of their software. We have MAAT Digital, who's also going to show some of their software. And of course, Asaf from Polyverse. He's going to show, I'm sure, the supermodal filter that they just released. So we'll jump into our basic entry, which is typically through IMSTA. We love IMSTA. IMSTA is a very good partner for everybody in the music software game. We have no other organization that advocates for piracy education globally. For example, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be in Shanghai at Music China, working the IMSTA area with 12 or so companies from over here that are over there showing software at Music China at the behest and basically through the benefit of the relationship that IMSTA has with Music China. IMSTA, of course, advocates all over the world for people to buy the software you use, which is a great thing for anybody making a living selling software. This is, of course, a picture of IMSTA Festa in Korea that is held by Gear Lounge and its crew. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about some product at the end of the presentation. It's going to be a very short presentation, really focused on preparing yourself for the big selling season that's coming. And how to sort of monetize and maximize what you could get out of this period and what the opportunity is. I'm not sure a lot of people understand the magnitude of the opportunity that Black Friday presents. This is true on both sides, the vendor side and the reseller side. There are people that are waiting to buy. They will buy. They'll buy from whoever is the most convenient and makes it easiest for them. You put yourself out there so you could get some of that business, and we'll show you what the quantity would be. Now, just a recap of the year and see how we're going so we can kind of estimate where we could expect this selling season 2024 to land. So far through the year, since about April, we've seen a bump in 2024 numbers. Right now, we're trending 8%. Last meeting, we were trending 7%. So we're going up. My estimate is we're going to be over 10, 11, 12% after we get through the November season. December is also going to be strong because we know there's some big releases coming in the last part of this year from some of the big heavy hitters. So this year is absolutely going to be a blockbuster year for anybody selling music software. The key is to make sure that you position your company to offer these products, I would say the second they're released. Do not come in an hour late. You have to be there at release time. Typically, these release times are set by the vendors. Make sure you're on top of that. Make sure the product's live on your website at that time and people can go there and buy the product. Make sure you tell people about the fact that you have this brand, you have this product, so they can come, your customers can come and get it from you rather than getting it from some other person. So 8% is what we're looking at. When we look at the trend, 12-month, to previous 12 months, we see an 11% growth, of course, because of the huge Black Friday 2023 that's in the middle of that number compared to the not so huge 2022. So this is all heading towards, you could see converging towards a number around 10%, maybe a little bit higher than that. And the reason I'm stressing this is we can expect the Black Friday season of 2024 to be higher than the Black Friday season of 2023. We've got 57 new resellers so far. And again, as I said, buying season is here. Now, what is the buying season? How do we quantify it? And let's, again, we say this every year. We've been saying this for many, many years. So this is kind of like a thing that we know as second nature. But for a lot of you, maybe you don't appreciate the opportunity that's about to happen. The period we're looking at, sometimes it's a little early, sometimes it could be November 1st, but typically it's November 15th or in that middle of the month. It could be November 12th, but somewhere in there, you're going to start seeing these promotions starting to hit. And then it's going to extend into Cyber Monday, and then it's going to continue typically for that week. So you're looking at a period from November 15th to December the 9th. All hands have to be on deck on your company. Everybody has to be there ready to facilitate the sales that are going to come in. Now, last year, there were 928 different promotions that were offered during this period. Now, of course, there are all kinds of promotions. Maybe you can't digest 928, but maybe you could digest, 992 or 28 or some combination of these numbers. You definitely can accommodate some of this. And yes, some of it's tedious, some of it's entering a lot of data, but I mean, like what are you there for? I mean, you're there to work, right? You're there to do stuff to make money. So it's not going to fall from the sky. The potential is what I'm going to show you right now. Now, the number of transactions in this period last year was over 70,000. So that means 70,000 transactions. Now, some transactions have multiple products inside. So it's possibly over 100,000 licenses are sold in that period on our service. Now, we're just a part of the business. We're not the whole business. But in our little sphere that we have, there are 70,000 plus transactions. Now, these transactions are going to happen, meaning the vendors are putting these products out at these prices. Some of the prices are up to 80, 90% off, and people are going to buy them. Some of the resellers, many of them will take these products and flash them to their resellers, and they will get that business, okay? If you don't take part of it, your customers are still going to get these deals. Okay, so what we're saying is make sure that your customers remain your customers and get a piece of that. Now, we estimate this could be as high this year, it could touch 100,000. So you have 100,000 transactions in basically a 3-week period of time. It's an enormous amount of business. Okay, so you have to be there. You have to be resident. Now, what does it mean? It translates to about $7 million plus of retail sales. So, I mean, some of you may be billion-dollar companies. It doesn't matter, 7 million. But for most people, a 7 million bonanza in a 3-week period is pretty significant. Now, of course, it doesn't go to one person. It doesn't go to one reseller. It's divided amongst, many resellers. Unfortunately, it's divided very unevenly. Just to give you, I don't know, you guys put in the chat what you think the top 5, what percentage of that 7 million do you think the top 5 resellers get? Somebody put that in the chat for me. What do you think the percentage of the top 5 resellers are of that $7 million worth of retail sale? Be putting in the chat. Let's see what we got here. Let's see who could be accurate. Maybe we'll give a prize for the person that comes the closest. The top 5 out of hundreds and hundreds of resellers. What percentage of the top 5 resellers do they take? What percentage of that is going to just 5 people? 65%, says Peter. And you know what? Peter, you're absolutely right. It's almost like you saw my presentation before. It is about 66 point something. It's about 67%. Now, this is, so we got to give Peter, somebody's got to give this man a prize. You were the first. I think you were the first that got it right. Yeah. Uh, Peter Sec. So we'll arrange that, of course, offline. Now that's great for those people, the 5 people. Let me throw out another question. What do you think the top 2? What percentage of this business is going to just 2 resellers? Please put that one in the chat. Let's see how good we are today. The top 2. The top 2. What percentage do they get? I see 250s there. I see 45. Yeah. Peter, you're right again. It's actually 45. So almost half of the business of that 7 million retail bonanza, okay, is going to 2 resellers. Now, just to put that in perspective, that is perhaps, let's just split it right down the middle. Let's say it's half of this, the 70,000. That's 35,000 transactions. It probably works out to be about 40,000 licenses. There's 40,000 different transactions that are happening. How much work are they doing for this after they put it up? What do they? I mean, they have to. It's all automated. They don't do any manual work. Like nobody's copying and pasting and emailing. The customers are going to the website. They're putting in their credit card. The credit card's being approved. They get the license right away. This is happening 30, 40,000 times with these 2 resellers. Okay. Now, I don't have to tell you that this is perhaps the most profitable kind of business that any retailer can have. Okay. Because you don't have to do any manual work. You don't have to ship. You guys know the spiel. So our goal is to get as many of our resellers to the space where in your business, you can also sit back during this period and watch your typical run rate go up 200, 300%. These are real numbers. Okay, let's continue down. The profits here that are divided, it's about at least it's over $2 million in profits during this period. Okay, now this can make or break a year for a retailer because the velocity of business during this time is it's unprecedented. We don't have anything like this. You see our charts when we track our monthly sales. There's always a huge spike. You see our quarterly sales, always a huge spike in Q4. It's as sure as the sun comes up in the east and sets in the west that we will have double the business in Q4 as in the rest of the year. That's almost a given. So this is just real money that comes in, but it comes in an automated fashion. Now, the top brands, we're going to name names here. We don't like to do this, but we just have to tell you this. These are the big brands that are doing a lot of promotions and are having massive numbers of transactions during the period. If you're not doing business with any of these people, it's just harder for you to hit those big numbers. If you're doing business with these people and you're not seeing the kind of doubling of your traditional run rate, you're probably not promoting it hard enough. These brands, I mean, you all know these brands, but it's not in order of, we're doing it alphabetically so we don't give away who's the top and who's the third or whatever. We'll maybe show that at the name show. The top regions, again, these are the number 1 regions. The top regions we have 20 regions around the world. And what this shows, what this chart shows, is this bonanza is global. It's spread around the world. There's no region that's really being left out of this. It's kind of egalitarian. Everybody can participate in it. So it doesn't matter where you're watching this from. You can participate. For sure. I promise you, you can participate, because if you don't, as a reseller, your customers will buy. They'll be part of the 70,000 from just some other source. Why should that happen? That's not what you're in business for. You're in business to sell to your customers, right? You're not in business to sell half of the stuff to your customers and the other half goes to another reseller. No, it's very easy to sell this stuff. It's a no-brainer. Now, how do you cash in on this? Number one, number 2, and number 3, and number 4, and number 5. Integrate your web shop with the XCHANGE API. Integrate. If you integrate everything, this becomes a thread it and forget it kind of system. You can integrate web assets. You can integrate price change. You can integrate all kinds of stuff, not just the sale part of it, like the transaction, to go get a license. Of course, that's the basic automation, but you can automate a lot of accounting services as well. So there's a very rich, vast array of services that we have in the IT sphere that you can take advantage of. It's all free. You don't have to pay anything. Yes, you might have to pay somebody to do an IT work for you, some kind of job or something. But apart from that, I mean, there's no cost to you to actually access the service, right? Now, and I know the answer always comes back, we don't have any IT. We don't have any IT. We don't have any IT. It's too expensive. It's too cumbersome. It's too hard. We don't know how much the return is. I think we heard that last month from someone. That excuse was used. Don't make excuses. The dog eat my homework thing, forget about that. Just go out and do it. Like you're a business. Like no excuses. Actually, we don't care about how much it costs. How much does it cost for us to run Exchange? How much does it cost for anybody to run any business? Business costs money. Like, what are you making the money for, if not to spend it? Spend it on IT resources so you can make this money. It's called an investment. No more complaints. Just go and do it. And you have time to do it. You guys can implement and integrate between now and November 15th. Honestly, we had one reseller who has no IT training who did it himself. I don't know if he did a great job, but it was working. Communicate with the vendors. Now, don't take a passive approach and sit back and wait for them to throw you the bone. Go get it. Talk to your vendors. Make sure they remember that you want that promo. You want to be involved in their promotion schedule. They will come up with promotions, but the vendors can be selective. They do not have to just, give everybody everything. They can choose who can get these promotions. And if you make enough noise, if you just in their face enough, you will get these promotions. Trust me. I can't say it enough. Communication. Integration, communication. Make sure you're heard. Make sure you know what's going on. Make sure there are no surprises. You don't want to be surprised by a vendor. You don't want to find out that on some other competitor's site, the plugins that you're selling are on sale over there and not sale over here. All right? Okay. And here's the final thing, and this is hard. Do not curate. Okay. We've been saying this from the first day we started this thing. If you're selling a product that you don't have to buy and stock, inventory, and ship, there is absolutely no reason to curate the assortment. No reason to pick and choose which ones you're going to put on a website. Why? It doesn't make any difference. I mean, if you put up 200 products or 220 products, you don't think the other 20 are going to sell, okay? Put them up anyway. There's no reason for you to curate. Let the customers curate. Let Google curate. Let everybody else curate. But you put everything up. Take the Amazon approach. We say this, even big companies like to curate because you have to curate with hardware. If you listen to Sam Ash, the interview last week, Richie Ash, the biggest part of his job and the biggest part of his buyer's jobs is to curate. When Gibson comes out with, as he said, a whole new series of guitars and 10 different colors and this and that, they have to pick and choose and they have to be careful which ones they actually stock. Same with a whole new set of core keyboards. Yes, because you're paying real money, you're taking money out of your pocket and you're giving it to them in exchange for these things. So you got to make sure, you're discriminating. You have to be careful. It's like buying a house. You don't just, close your eyes and buy the next house that's available. You want to check it out first. So you can't just take your money and give it to a manufacturer for a whole bunch of stuff without really checking it, without curating. That's part of the DNA of buying. That's part of the DNA of retail. I get it. I understand it completely. And I sympathize. I think you absolutely have to curate with hardware. But with this stuff, absolutely not. We have web assets. Take all the stuff and put it on your website. There's no need to curate. If you have a promo you think it's not going to sell, so you don't put it up, then you start just wasting time. Take all the promos and put them up. You don't want to do that, of course. Use the APIs to do it. Yeah, you automate. Take everything coming to you. And that way you maximize the benefit. Now, again, like we said, for some of you, we're preaching to the choir. But for the ones who haven't really heard this message, I just want to reiterate, it is vital that you follow these three rules. Integrate, communicate, no curation. Do not curate. You follow these rules, you'll get your piece of this bonanza that could be as high as, certainly be 100,000 transactions will go through, serial numbers will go through the system during November 15th and December 10th, 2024, or whatever the time the whole thing begins. There's going to be a lot. You want your piece of that. You want your share of that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk about quickly, and then we'll jump into the vendors, some of the new features that we kind of really skipped through last time because we had that huge interview with Richard Ash. And again, I got to say before I go on, I really should, as a reprise, just say how grateful I am that he came on and really exposed himself that way for everybody. It took a lot of, courage. He enjoyed it, but he didn't have to do it. A lot of people wouldn't have done it. So, Richard, if you see this, I just want to again say thank you for really doing that. You helped a lot of people. You helped a lot of people in the industry. All right. So we have this upcoming price change. This is very, very important because, again, the whole no surprises mantra, I want to focus on that. You don't want to be surprised. You don't want to know that the product dropped in price or went up in price and you thought it was this price. Now, this is something that you can also get through our APIs. We even have webhooks for this. So please talk to your IT folks about this to make sure that you're not surprised. Or, once a week or something, just go and check for upcoming price changes. There's a menu item there. You can just see what's coming and then prepare yourself. Everything will be shown that's coming. We're also going to keep a log. Is one more change we're going to make to this page, where we'll keep a log of the previous price changes, so you could see maybe the ones that you missed, because obviously after the date comes, it's not upcoming anymore. It's just the price change, but perhaps you haven't been in there since the message was up. So we'll have a log of previous price changes for you. All right, so the vendors will post a date and future price. You'll also get a notification if you set a notification email in your notifications menu, which of course very few of you do. We should start giving prizes for people that set up all their notification emails. But if you set that, you'll get an email. Of course, if you go in, you'll see a little bell icon which says there's something new. But I know a lot of people don't really look at that. But again, we've made it so that there are multiple ways you're going to be informed. The moment the future price change is created, okay, you'll get a notification instantly. But, again, some of the stuff is not set correctly. The best way is to have it automated, where it just comes into your system automatically. And the price change, of course, kicks in and then the thing disappears. Okay. The other thing that we've done now, we have shipping labels. For those of you who are doing hardware on the system, you can now, there are a couple of things that we're working on. This one's finished. You can put your own UPS, FedEx shipping labels, attach them as JPEGs or PDFs, and then just send it in with your purchase order. Those purchase orders, of course, will allow the logistics center to simply print that, stick it on a box, and ship it out to you. So this is a huge feature. It's something you can do post facto. So after you've done the sales order, you can also attach it after the fact. If something happens where you change your mind or somebody doesn't want to ship it on their account, you can just create the shipping labels. And you could attach these note fields that are with your sales orders, your purchase orders. You could send any manual instructions that you need to communicate with anybody working in the logistics center or to the vendor. All right, very important. Additionally, there'll be broker information here as well. We're trying to beef this up. This system now, the XCHANGE HD hardware system, is quite robust. It's getting more and more sophisticated every day. We're very proud of what is happening in this area, and for especially cross-border stuff, things that are moving quickly. People are getting stuff very fast in very, for us, remote parts of the world, okay, that typically don't get the same level of service you would get like in Los Angeles or London or New York or Toronto. All right, so we're going to jump off of all of this stuff and invite our first manufacturer to come on. At the end, we will take some questions and answers. We have, at the end, we'll also announce a very, very exciting guest for the meeting in October, which I'm sure everybody's going to want to see. So without much further ado, we're going to start with Fiedler audio. And I don't know if you're ready. Are you ready? Okay. All right. So Fiedler Audio makes some interesting mastering tools. I think Gravitas, MDS, and some other things. So I will just pass it over to you, Thomas. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to show off. So Fiedler Audio is, just a quick run through, is 11 years old. We started off with some iOS apps and rec extensions, and later went to plugins. And in the last years, we specialized on spatial audio and Dolby Atmos. What I have open here is just our webpage, the products page, and you see now the main 6 products which are in this range of spatial audio and Dolby Atmos. We started with SpaceLab. There are 2 versions of SpaceLab: SpaceLab Interstellar and SpaceLab Ignition, which is a reverb, and more than a reverb. It's a format agnostic reverb, means a reverb which can feed any kind of format, starting from mono up to any kind of 3D audio format, and of course Dolby Atmos. And we also have the Dolby Atmos Composer, which is our flagship product, so to say. This is a plugin, or better said, a plugin suite, with which you can produce Dolby Atmos content on any DAW on both Windows and Mac. It's basically the only solution for many people, especially on Windows, because there's no other really a tool set if you don't have a DAW which has Dolby Atmos integrated. And there are 2 versions of the Dolby Atmos Composer. There's the big one with all the bells and whistles, and there's a Dolby Atmos Composer Essential, which is essentially free. And the essential version is for those who just want to start out, who want to start trying and all that stuff. But of course, that's not so interesting for you. But the big version of the Dolby Atmos Composer is, so to say, the centerpiece of our Dolby Atmos production ecosystem. And there is Gravitas MDS, which is a compressor, a mastering compressor, also capable of any kind of format, ranging from mono up to 128 channels. And there is something very special about Gravitas, because it's basically the only compressor or dynamics processor which can process entire Dolby Atmos mixes, which can have up to 128 channels. There's no other solution out there at this moment which can do that directly. And that brings us also to the last product, which is the mastering console. This is basically a Dolby Atmos Composer as a standalone version, and you can load in your Dolby Atmos mix as a format as ADM BWF file, which is the delivery format for ready Dolby Atmos mix, and you can master it, you can process it through Gravitas, and refine it and make it ready for delivery. And to show you how it actually works, I have open Logic Session. And this Logic Session just contains a few tracks, which you can see on the top here. We can see the mixing desk on the bottom. It's nothing fancy. It's just a few audio tracks, and they are mixed together and the output. So let's say this is our track. We want to start mixing for Dolby Atmos. So the easiest way to go to Dolby Atmos is start by putting the Dolby Atmos Composer into the master track. This is the work. Oh, that was a mistake. Okay, now we only want it here. In the master track, we have the Dolby Atmos Composer. And when the Dolby Atmos Composer is on, it doesn't do anything, because we need to tell the Dolby Atmos Composer what tracks we want to have in the Dolby Atmos mix. And to do so, there's a second plugin which accompanies the Dolby Atmos Composer. This is the Dolby Atmos Beam. And this looks like this. The Dolby Atmos Beam is a three-dimensional panner. Now I have it instantiated on the drums track, which is a stereo track. So we see two objects here, and those can be panned around in the 3D space. And once this is instantiated, they recognize automatically each other, and we instantly have the drums track already in our Dolby Atmos mix. And the same thing we can basically do for all these tracks. We can just put a Dolby Atmos beam on all tracks. We can also put Dolby Atmos beams on buses or anywhere you want. The Dolby Atmos beam can also be put on multi-channel tracks, on mono tracks. There's basically no limitation to that. And after doing that, we have the whole mix in our Dolby Atmos composer. And we can basically just hit play, and you should hear something. Did you hear something? Great. So they recognize each other, the beam and the Dolby Atmos composer. And the great trick is that the connection between the beam and the composer goes around the mixing engine of the DAW. This is the reason why you can do Dolby Atmos on any DAW. So this is the basic setup for a Dolby Atmos mix. The next level is Spacelab. When you instantiate the Reverb Spacelab, it is also automatically recognized by the Dolby Atmos composer and connected, and you instantly have it configured as a 916 reverb. So you don't need to do anything further, except you really want to configure it in a different way. But you have the reverb, and you can start right away either using it in a send and return fashion, as we all know how reverbs are used. So you can switch off dry and then use the sends to send something there. So if I solo the reverb here, and then let's say I send the drums, you instantly should hear the reverb, which is arriving by the dry sound. So that's the easiest way to get immediate immersive reverb on any DAW into your Dolby Atmos mix. And if you want to get more fancy, you can also use the object part of Spacelab. So you can send in more signals and have them as objects around the listener, move them around in space, and even also switch them to become Dolby Atmos objects, which will then be part of the mix, which you can then play separately and configure separately in your Dolby Atmos mix. And now coming to Gravitas, the Dolby Atmos composer has a master channel. So when all the Dolby Atmos connections which are incoming are mixed together and ready to be processed by the Dolby Atmos renderer, which is integrated here, you can process the whole mix through Gravitas, and Gravitas is here. And if I hit play, you will see the meters do something. So that is basically now, since we don't have a big Atmos mix, we have just a few channels, but this thing can process easily up to 128 channels. And well, when we are ready, we can just export our work as an ADM BWF file and deliver it to the distributors or wherever we want to publish our Dolby Atmos mix. And of course, it has all the bells and whistles which belong to Dolby Atmos. You can change all the metadata, you can measure the loudness, you can configure all the incoming channels with a binaural mode description group and whatnot. You can monitor on speakers from any DAW, even if the DAW is not capable of multi-channel audio. You can select an audio interface inside and, for example, take Ableton Live, which is a very famous DAW, but just stereo only. You can select your multi-channel audio interface and directly monitor your preferred speaker setup directly from Ableton Live. And once you're ready with your mix and you have exported it, or if you have received another mix and you just want to give it the final touch, here is the mastering console. You can import an ADM file. You can process it with the same configuration options as the Dolby Atmos composer, and you can also put on the master channel the same Gravitas module to process the entire chain, the entire ADM BWF file, as you can see. Yeah, So that's basically the overview of our products. I'm sure I mentioned a lot of stuff about Dolby Atmos mixing, which might be not known by you, but those who know about a little bit about Dolby Atmos and Dolby Atmos mixing, they will understand what I have said. But in short, this is a whole ecosystem which will grow bigger in the coming years, and will give you more tools, more opportunities, more options to make Dolby Atmos mixes, and which offers workflows which are more advanced than the other workflows, and give you options like the master channel in the mastering console and Dolby Atmos Composer, which no other Dolby Atmos workflow can actually offer. And just to make clear, all our Dolby Atmos tools are legit. They are licensed by from Dolby, and it's the original algorithm inside. So it's not something homebrew, but it is the real thing from Dolby itself. And yeah, if you look up the Dolby page, you will also find articles about our tools. And well, if there are questions, I'm here.
I have one question,
Sure.
Thomas. How did you get involved in this area?
Well, actually, multi-channel. Well, that is already more than 20 years ago. When I was a student, I was always very interested in multi-channel audio because we naturally hear in 3D, and stereo obviously cannot cover the whole spectrum of what we can hear. So when I was a student more than 20 years ago, and 5.1 was the hype back then, I made several music productions in 5.1. One of them was a big recording in the Berlin Philharmonics. And I created also a modular synthesizer for 5.1 with all reverb for 5.1, modulation effects for 5.1, and whatnot, and modular. You can do lots of crazy stuff. And this was my personal start in multi-channel, and I was always very keen to at looking how to bring this to the people. But well, 5.1 remained a niche. And I waited until other things came up, which are which have a broader audience. And nowadays, with Dolby Atmos and listening to Dolby Atmos on headphones, basically anyone can at least listen to one version of Dolby Atmos, which makes it feasible to produce and also profitable to produce Dolby Atmos music. And yeah, I mean, I got involved with Dolby a few years back. First, I got involved with Fraunhofer, the creators of MP3, and they created a fascinating 3D reverb algorithm. And through my working connection with them, I got the job to create the commercial product for that, which is SpaceLab. This SpaceLab contains the superb 3D audio reverb algorithm from Fraunhofer. And once that went out, Dolby got interested. And from there, we took it with the Dolby Atmos Composer and everything else.
Very, very interesting. Now, obviously, you see this area growing, and it's it's not getting smaller. It's only getting bigger.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, because there's such a dearth of information on this area of audio, would you be willing, I think I see a question in the chat here, to offer like maybe a deeper learning demonstration of some of these plugins for a selected group of resellers? If we could arrange something like that.
Sure, we can do this. Well, we will do live streams from time to time anyway. We have in our YouTube channel, we have a great repository of tutorials, walkthroughs, and everything where you can know anything about our tools to get a head start and to also dive deeper. But of course, I will be willing to give you a deep dive. But I would ask you to first watch our tutorials so that we don't start from zero.
Oh, okay. So do your homework first, and then
all right, and then of course with all pleasure we can do that.
Okay. Very, very good. If you add other immersive reverb plugins, will they show up in Composer?
When we do more immersive plugins, of course, they will also. We have quite a list of possible candidates for that. So the ecosystem will definitely grow. We also will create more modules so that when you actually well, bus compress or bus process or master Dolby Atmos mixes. You will not only have a dynamics plugin, but also other ways to process them.
That's very exciting. All right, thank you so much, Thomas, for that presentation. I think our next steps is to organize something for you to do a special deep dive after we've verified that the resellers who are going to be on that have done their homework. So maybe we'll create a little test for them or something. And if they fail, they won't get the invite. Okay. So just a message that goes out to all the resellers listening: do your homework, and then you get an invite. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is Oliver from MAAT Digital. MAAT Digital. Oliver, are you ready?
Hello, everybody. My name is Oliver Mascherati, and I am one of the co-founders at MAAT at GmbH. We're based out of Germany, but I'm in the beautiful upper Midwest in Minnesota, as we say here. And I want to thank all of you for taking some time out. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Thomas. That was a very cool presentation. So let's take a look at what we got going. A little bit of background on us. There's three of us basically who started the company in beautiful Santa Cruz, California. We had a vision at the time, which was now half a decade ago. You can see that in blue. It's sound quality and usability is what we focus on. We started doing mostly mastering products. We've branched out into some other stuff. Here's a little CV on the three of us. So you can see that Friedemann comes from the production side. I've kind of been a mastering guy since my Sonic Solutions days. I come from also manufacturing. I've worked for Lex and DBX and other companies. And our CTO, Christoph Musiatic, you can see his stuff, kind of major companies. He designed the first digital console that Studer sold. So he's a stone cold DSP genius, as they say. Let's take a look at the product lines. We've got a bunch of families. The first two are entry level. You can see that pricing there. We sell those mostly to, how to put it, starter engineers and actually music enthusiasts. The important thing there is the difference between our DR dynamic range products and 1770 products, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you can see that we have two products there. The guy on the left is our DR meter. It's a real-time estimator. You plug it in, it dances. Offline is what actually does the measurement for DR dynamic range, integrated DR as we call it. They're both low-cost, essential products. Real quick about DR. So I hope you all know about 1770, what most people refer to as R128 or A85 here in America. It all comes from 1770. And there's the one big parameter, LRA, as it's called, or loudness range. It's an integrated value that 1770 specifies. It's what people think of when they think of loudness with a capital L. They think of LRA. Trouble with LRA is it is integrated over time, as is DR, and it's perceptually weighted, as is DR. But unfortunately, it looks at the wrong stuff. It was designed for commercials, for broadcast commercials, automated loudness correction. And it doesn't really track what we as human beings hear in terms of subjective loudness. It's great for what it does. It's universal all over the world, but our DR, integrated DR dynamic range, or DRI as we call it for short, is a much better way of subjectively measuring. So it's a de facto standard. It's used by hundreds of thousands of people around the world. But what if you need both, which you really do? And that's why I said the DR1 family is for starter folks. The DR2 family, or DR Meter Mark II and DR Offline Mark II, are our products that support both integrated DR and 1770. So you get the real-time, real-time plugin can measure as well as estimate. So it gives you trends, but it also gives you some hard numbers that you'll need later on. And in the background, DR offline works in conjunction with that real-time plugin. You can take a clip, drop it onto the real-time plugin, and it'll show up in DR offline Mark II. So 22 metrics and metadata chunks are all integrated in DR offline Mark II. So we suggest you use it for, well, looking at your project at the very beginning to see where you stand, and looking at your project as you go through it, and at the very end, run it through offline again to see if you actually hit your targets. So real quick, again, 1770, we live in that loudness world now, loudness controlled world. I hope you're all aware of the gory details of that. It's designed for robots. It's not designed for us humans in that sense. All program types, whereas integrated DR is designed for pop music. So let's look real quick at DR Meter Mark II. There's a couple of different versions of the user interface. It's 1770 ready. It looks at that upper 5% of dynamic range that 1770 ignores. Now think about that. We all know pop music is highly compressed, right? So if you take the full dynamic range of your material and you ignore the top 5%, you're getting a very strange number. And that's why 1770 is not a good reflection of that. So here's the user interface for offline. As I said, it's pretty significant in what it can do. Includes drag and drop. So there's our first two families. They're all about measurement. They're highly accurate. In fact, there are a lot of competition out there that is not highly accurate, but we won't go into that. We are the only guys that do DRI. We're also the only guys that do 1770 and DRI together in one product. Okay, so equalizers. You may have heard of our EQs. There's the pricing. There's the 4 EQs we make. 2 of them are linear phase and 2 are minimum phase. We'll look into that in a minute. I just want to point out that your typical high school programmer can make an EQ with 100 lines of code. That first guy in the list, EQ Orange, is well over 100,000 lines of code. So think about the differences. We don't make shortcuts. We don't make compromises. Internally, this is an 80-bit, 2-pass time domain linear phase mastering EQ. So you can see what we build it for typically. And that concept about time domain, you'll see the next product is a little different way of doing equalization. It changes the sound, but this is our flagship. It's a absolutely beautiful sounding beast, especially, again, best for subjective low frequency EQing. It's a monster. Here's the other linear phase product we make. We make 4 EQs, basically 3 engines, because each one is different. They sound different. They work differently. So here's EQ Red, also linear phase, frequency domain this time. Same 80-bit internals. You know, normal plugins are 32-bit. Fancy plugins are 64-bit. We go even past that because we can hear the difference. So we figure our clients can as well, our customers. So, you know, you've probably heard of a guy named Bob Olson. He's a kind of a Yoda in the audio world. A real quick quote: "It simply doesn't screw anything up while adding whatever EQ tweaks I can imagine." Red is just a thing of beauty. So because it's linear phase, both of those EQs I've mentioned have a contribution control. EQ Red also has what we refer to as Verislope. You know, a first order filter has 60 dB per octave of slope. We can go almost down to 0. So very, very gentle, shallow EQ, as well as excessive super high Q stuff, you know, multi-order, blah, blah. But that Verislope ability is unique and quite lovely. And as you can see, we have a subscription model for that beastie. Let's divert from linear phase to minimum phase. So here is our minimum phase all-purpose EQ, 12 bands. You'll see in one of the next slide has some user interface versions, different ways you can configure it. So we take the concept of how to build an EQ seriously. There are many ways to do it, and one of them is probably in this list. So if you look at that list, the classic sim at the top, and the parallel LC, or, inductor capacitor asymmetric architecture at the bottom. 12 architectures. They all sound different. Two versions of the plugin. You can buy a 6 architecture version. So those first 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down to constant Q asymmetrical. And you can buy the full boat of 12. Within each one of those, you have all those topologies. So cuts and bells and shelves, multi-order, etc. So, if your customer is used to having a Manley or a Massenburg or a Pultec or a Maslek or a Harrison, blah, 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 they're all in here. Those last 2 happen to be massive. One of them's a massive passive. So, crazy, beautiful sound. 12 of them or 6 of them. Well, it's not the cheapest EQ out there, frankly, folks. And that's, we like it that way because we put an awful lot into these high value products. But here's a stripped down version, I guess you could say. It's stripped down in the sense that it uses less CPU cycles. So Santa Cruz EQ is the same engine as EQ Blue, same architecture, same sound, same 6 architectures or 12 architecture version, but you'll notice that the bands are fewer number of sections or bands. There's paramets in the center and some shelves and cuts on the edges. So bunch of different versions. There's our 4 equalizers. We're really well known for that stuff. Let's go on and look at our face-based products real quick. The guy on the left is that 2BC multicore. You can see pricing. Guy on the right is our phase rotator, and we have a bundle for that. As with everything we make, double precision, at least internal. So these are all 64 floats inside. Let's take a quick look at the way that you find problems in phase space. There is no DAW tool that shows you phase space like 2BC multicore. All of the precision is down there in the very bottom octave and a half, because that's where all the bad things can happen. When you have a smart, this is not a smart speaker, but imagine a smart speaker this big. Stereo bass? No, not ever going to get that. It just doesn't happen. So a lot of people are listening on those little speakers. A lot of bad things can happen. It's not just vinyl mastering that this is important. Everybody needs to pay attention to it. So what if you find a problem? You can see those little red bars in there. We have a very, very skeuomorphic UI. It's the only one we sell right now. We have a lovely phase rotator. It's super fast because it emulates a well-known phase rotator or, all-pass filter. It's super quick to find the problem, aligning individual mix elements, etc. Of course, double precision internals, all that kind of stuff. On to our Lin family of redithering products. So we actually make a version that's not in this list, but here's Lin Surround. It's a multi-channel. We have Lin Pro for stereo. We have Lin 1, and I put that little note in there. Believe it or not, folks, I hope there's nobody from Avid on this call. Pro Tools doesn't know how to dither properly. Think about that. The most fundamental function of a DAW, not in Pro Tools. So Lin 1, super reasonably priced, very, very simple. And then Lin Pro and Lin Surround are full featured. Our Lin Pro OEM version, which anybody can license, was selected by Steinberg. It's now built into WaveLab and Cubase because they decided that our choice, and you can see there are many choices from something you'd want to use for MP3 and Redbook on all the way up to, 384K stems that you're going to post-process or someone else is going to be doing. We have a version of Dither that's optimized for any of those situations. Last but not least, some of our fun and tiny products. The guy on the left is called MTG, or Mind the Gap. It's for filling in areas in the timeline that are empty. You can see the little zebra stripes. That's going to get filled in. It does it automatically. It does it seamlessly. It does a fabulous job. You can, also use it for building atmospheres and trance music, all kinds of things where you have blocks of time that you want to fill with something interesting, whether it's a Walla in the background for a dialogue editor or something fancier. So there's that guy. And then MAAT on the right is a monitor controller. Most of those monitor functions you don't find in a typical DAW. Also with a goniometer that's extremely close to a CRT oscilloscope version. So some people, I'm one of them, I love to have a Lissaju running all the time. MAAT is like a DR Meter Mark II. We have a native version. You can put it in an old computer, run its own monitor, have a little measurement set up all ready to go. So last product, sorry for all this, but we have a fairly large product line. Our FiDef Gen 2 product is, okay, it's crazy. As the inventor calls it, it's voodoo. The guy who heads up mastering at Concord Music, Paul Blakemore, he calls it audio crack, as in audio heroin. He loves this product for the things that it does. The crazy thing about FiDef is it is a psychoacoustic processor that works on your subconscious. By definition, subconscious. So it's, not something that you normally come across. Let's put it that way. But I can tell you that Al Schmidt, Ed Cherney, when they were alive, they endorsed it and loved it. Frank Filippetti, another guy who I have extreme respect for, loves FiDef, as well as tons and tons of other folks. It's a simple user interface. Currently 5 buttons. That will expand quite a bit in the next version. But we can see some quotes here from Rob. I put it on almost all of my masters. The monster producer Gary Katz makes my record sound better, and it'll make your record sound better too. And then, Tony Cousins works over at Metropolis, makes me want to go back and remaster everything I have. So, real quick, we don't compromise on our code. If it's hard, who cares? I'm not going to go into, the mechanics behind those linear phase equalizers, but they're really heroic. Fidelity and a focused user experience. All that's great. I mean, a lot of companies promise that, and some of them deliver it, but we also provide professional levels of support for our customers. We have real human beings in Europe and America who actually will work with somebody who's having a problem. So there you go, folks. A little quote that I love. And that's about it. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your interest. And if you need anything from us, I'm here, guys and gals. Let's sell some product together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Oliver. And I would just like to get your sense of who is your typical main customer or main customer groups for your products.
We have a rather broad range of customers. Our entry-level DR1 products are bought by hobbyists. MAAT is bought by audiophiles because it lets you do things like set up your phono cartridge really easily. We have a very dedicated group at the top who are mastering engineers because for them, it's all about fidelity. And, many people who are starting out look at our pricing and go, you guys are on something. And I don't know what it is you're smoking, but it must be pretty crazy. As you said earlier, Ray, it's all about investing. And these are just, they're investments for a business. Once you have them, you just crank out better products. So it's a pretty broad range, and we sell all across every continent except the two at the top and the bottom, the cold places. Although I'm in a very cold place. So yeah, it's a very broad range.
All right, thank you very much, Oliver.
Thank you.
Now you're very welcome. Those are some great products. Now we're going to bring on Mr. Asaf. Asaf, are you there from Polyverse?
Yes, hello. How are you?
You're probably going to show us some, I'm doing fine, sir. Probably going to show us Supermodal today?
I'm going to show a bunch of plugins, sure.
Okay, so Asaf,
I'll share my screen.
I've known for quite a while, and he's going to show us some magical stuff here. Take it away, sir.
All right, let me just make sure that I'm sharing my sound because I'm hooked through a manipulator. Can you hear that? All right.
Yeah.
So Manipulator is one of our top-selling products. It's a pitch shifter and steroids, and it's real-time. There's no latency. whatsoever. And it's also a polyphonic. Oh, hello. Yes, so it's a MIDI pitch shifter. So you can actually play it on real time. It's polyphonic.
Can you do chords?
Let's see, because it's kind of like, hello, yes, I can do some chords. It has this extensive modulation section on the bottom that can create crazy.
And you know, the more subtle voice changes.
Yeah, it's just a fun product overall. Let me show you some examples on what I did with it.
So you should be able to hear my voice again.
Yes.
And so manipulator is an effect and a synthesizer at the same time. Here I'm using my own voice. This is me just babbling to the microphone.
Yo, 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 yo.
Yeah, and this is the result with the MIDI.
Bow, wow, wow, nyo, nyo, nyo.
So this is all made just by me, just blabbing to the microphone. Here we have some more sources that the before and the after. This opera singer. So yeah, basically a plugin that can make my dream come true in becoming an opera singer. Another plugin that...
Okay. Hold on. I'm going to pause. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Could you give him a mark out of 10 for creativity here? I want to see in the chat, what kind of marks did you just get from all the presentations we've seen? Somebody put a mark out of 10 for creativity. Come on now. Let's get everybody voting. Come on now. Let's see some numbers. Oh, my God. I see a 20 there.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much.
That's called oversampling. Oversampling.
Yeah. Well, we're going to continue oversampling because we improve as we grow older. So here comes the
lot of times.
The first product that we've released is called the Surgeon. Is called the I Wish. Sorry, and this has been created together with Infected Mushroom. If you know that band, it's an incredible psytrance band, and it has a very simple idea. I'll show you the plugin itself. This is the plugin. Audio comes in. When you press a note, it loops the note in the exact speed of that note's pitch. So it basically samples a very short wavelet. And let's hear some kind of vocals going through it. That's just me playing on the keyboard while the vocals are singing along. And let's just unmute the MIDI part here that they've created. And let's hear what happened to the vocals. Yep, so this will not only mash up vocals, it will also do the same for drums. So the original drums here sound like this. And this is what I Wish caused the drums to sound like. You can basically feed it just any type of noise. So here's some noise. We've put on some phasers onto the noise to give it some kind of character. But through I Wish, so yeah, that's I Wish. Everything that you've heard right now is just like plain audio used through this kind of granular micro-editing polyphonic synthesizer. It's a weird thing, but it does many interesting things. We have also 3 filters out there. One of them is free, and the other one is called Supermodal, and I'll just play a little bit of that too. Awesome. So this Supermodal is essentially a modal filter, which means that it is a single filter comprised out of 200 bandpass filters playing together parallel, resonating to emulate resonating bodies. And let me just play a little bit of the drum track here so you can understand what it's really doing. Awesome. Let's open Supermodal, and I'll just start with the init patch so you can hear the effect of the plugin. So it's made of two sections, a regular filter and the modal filter. The modal filter has those 100 filters in parallel in different frequencies, and we can control those frequencies by selecting different models. It has different modulators to control all of the elements that you see on the top of the screen, and a bunch of presets. Let's listen to some drum presets just for fun. And that's the preset that we're going to use for this demo. So let's listen to some stuff through Supermodel to understand kind of what we can do with this power of resonance. So here we're using the vocal model before, just saw. We're also, by the way, using Comet, which is our reverb plugin. It sounds very musical. It's very immediate to use, and it has these 5 different super quick accessible presets that they can morph between each other in different speeds. But right now presenting Supermodel, so we'll continue with that. This is our demonstrates how fat and nice our filter is before. So this is a 0 delay filter that is saturating and fat sounding. Together, it just sounds very nice. Here are the drums, no, Supermodel, and the drums. And in this case, by the way, this filter kind of emulates a delay, a band-limited delay before. So a random generator can be quantized to scales and notes for extra musical results. Here we're just kind of sorry, a little bit of phasing. This one is, again, just clicks through Supermodel and a randomizer. Again, our fat filter. We're with our sequencer modulator. You can see how quickly it is to... Yep. So this is Supermodel. It's a very interesting filter effect. But the most recent filter that we've yet to release is now it's in beta mode, public beta, and it's being released at the end of this month or beginning of next month, probably at the 8th of October, is Filterverse. And Filterverse, let's close this, is a collection of vast amounts of filters. So let's just play some kind of baseline. A so baseline is always a good way to kind of measure what a filter is all about. And we listen to some filters. Okay, let me just elongate the last note. Logic always does that. Awesome. So here we have Filterverse. Let's listen to the original sound. So there's plenty of filters in here. Let me kind of demonstrate some of the classic ones. The Swiss Army knife has a very classic fat sound. I'll often recommend just gain staging, which means just take the sound and boost it into the filter and listen to what happens. And that resonance gets choked a little bit in this filter. On this filter, which is our Moog filter, resonance is not as choked as much. The drive sounds different too. The cool thing about our filters is that they're all super stable, so you can actually use oscillators to modulate them for audio rate modulation. And some of those filters are really extreme, like this one. You could hear the bandpass for like 16 poles. But this is just really the beginning, because we have some filters here that nobody's ever heard before. One of them, for instance, is the Robocomb. In this situation, it's almost like a regular comb filter. But if you just change a little bit of the parameters, it's not a regular comb filter anymore. Fractaser also is a fractal-like algorithm for our phaser. Everything is modulatable in a stereo fashion, so you could take a sequencer like an LFO and modulate each side separately. We even have a reverb that acts like a filter. And let me explain what that means. Yep. And when I say it behaves like a filter, is that most of its range is actually dedicated to be a filter. This kind of jiggly can of water, but in the low range, it's a beautiful, smooth, musical. It works really well with super long tails, but also has very nice shorter spaces in there as well. It's a very musical sounding reverb. We also have coils, which is another reverb type filter that kind of emulates spring coils in a way. You can hear that sweep going on down, and that's controllable. You can make it faster or shorter. I mean longer, much longer or shorter. So beyond reverbs, and of course there's some delays in here. Some are granular, some are tape delays. You see the list is still not full, and it's going to get full as time goes on. We have everything between the most classic filters all the way to crazy sounding filters. Again, we are trying to serve the electronic musicians, giving them that drug, which is basically the new sound, never heard before sound, giving them access to that, thing that propels electronic music. So that's about it.
No, not quite. You got to tell us where you get your ideas from.
I get my ideas from musicians. I'm a musician. I work with, in our company, areas from Infected Mushroom Works. I've been working as a producer for many, many years back in Israel. Now I live in LA running Polyverse. I teach synthesis, so I'm constantly in contact with the other producers. And I basically understand what people are looking for when they're making electronic music. I'm very connected to that kind of market niche. And yeah, Polyverse has a small but dedicated following of musicians that are just sound design nerds that love hanging out at the bleeding edge of sound design.
Excellent, man. I got to say, I've used your products myself in my own productions and, of course, demonstrated them before. So awesome. Seeing you do it, though, you are the master, and that was quite an amazing presentation. Thank you so much, Asaf.
Thank you so much.
And I know you're up early over there in LA, so thanks again for being up early. But that was a fantastic. Come on, guys, let's hear it for all our presenters today. Let's put some marks in the chat and some thank yous in that chat for Thomas, Oliver, and Asaf, please.
Thank you.
Let's make sure you guys are out there and say something nice, make these guys feel appreciated for getting up this early, and for some of them staying up a little bit past their time. Thanks again for all the feedback. For those of you who answered correctly, get in touch with Peter and Natalia to figure out how we can give you a little reward for that. All right. Well, for those of you stuck around this long, I guess I'll just tell you right now. Next meeting is going to be quite the meeting. There's probably going to be a couple hundred people on this call because we have the one and the only Chuck Shurak, who's going to be on this call next month. He's going to be interviewed. It's kind of an echo of the Sam Ash interview. Richard Ash said some great things about Chuck, and Chuck saw the interview, liked it, and he's volunteered to come on and speak to us about how he created this incredible thing called Sweetwater. So I think everybody's going to want to be here to listen to that and to ask questions directly of the man. So we'll see you all next month. All right. How exciting is that? Huh? Thank you, guys. Thank you, Asaf, Oliver, Thomas, our team, our crew here. Thank you, guys. See you next month.